Why do the sweat bees really love this hens and chick blossom? Howdy, Possum Patty here. It is July 22nd and I am nature journaling. A couple of things about observations that I want to talk about today. The first is these hens and chicks. You know, the hen and chick plant has a nice low profile. It grows in a mound. And then all of a sudden, one day you walk past it and you notice it has these aliens coming out of it. But out of the top of these tall aliens are beautiful little pink flowers. What I noticed today was that the flowers were being swarmed by these little metallic green bees. And I remember that these were called sweat bees. And I looked it up, and I guess there's a few different species, or many different species, and this metallic green is only one of them. And then I wondered why the sweat bees only liked this hen and chicks flower. But there's a phenomenon called the Baader-Mienhof phenomenon, and it is a frequency bias. That is, once you notice something that's new or new to you, all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere. So I wonder if these little green bees had been around, but I just hadn't noticed them before. So I decided to take an informal survey of the flowers around the yard. Not the wildflowers, but all the flowers that I had planted, to see which ones the sweat bees were on. The first one that I checked was the marigold. There were no insect visitors on the marigold, so I walked over to the black-eyed Susans. And yes, there were green sweat bees on the black-eyed Susans. So I checked the Veronica. I did not see any insect visitors on the pink Veronica, so I decided to check the coneflowers. I have a few different colors. First, the pink and orange. I found a little black shiny bee on the yellow coneflowers. I wonder if this is another kind of sweat bee. Next, I went over to the zinnias that I had planted to look for some insects. And there they were, little green sweat bees. I saw this little brown Zabulon skipper butterfly. This is the Zabulon. I can tell by the wings. It holds one pair of wings up high and the other one straight out. To me, it looks like a fighter jet. Now back to the zinnias. Look what I found on an orange zinnia. It's a katydid. There weren't any insects visiting the purple hosta flowers when I looked at it. So I went over to the begonias. Nothing on the begonias. You may have noticed this little statue in my garden. This is Saint Fiacre. Saint Fiacre is the patron saint of gardeners. He's holding a spade and a bunch of posies in his hand. Next, I went to check the red verbena. Nothing there, so I checked the happy little faces of the purple pansies and then the lavender that I had just planted. Now, when I bought this lavender, the attendant said that the lavender was the plant that all the bees went to, but there was not one bee on the lavender. So I went over to the purple and white verbena. Nothing on the verbena, but there was one little sweat bee on the dianthus. Over to the rose. No insects visiting the rose right now. I'm going to check the snapdragons. The snapdragons weren't very busy either. So I looked at the pink geranium. And then on the million bells blossoms, there were some more of those brilliant metallic green bees. And of course, they were all over the hens and chicks blossoms. Another thing I want to talk about on this page is the fact that I made the little tiny bee big and the plant smaller. Sometimes I do this. So looking back in an old journal, you can see that I have a very large worm and a smaller robin. So I made the larger subject smaller and the smaller subject larger. And that's what I did on this page. One thing I tried to do with the sweat bee was to make it look metallic. First I painted it in watercolors and then went over some of the spots with a colored pencil. but to me it didn't look shiny enough, so I put on some pearlescent shimmer watercolor. And that's cheating, I know, but I wanted it to be shiny. There is a way to do it, but I need practice. So I get out my John Muir Law's Guide to Nature Journaling, and he has a whole section on drawing insects. And I should have looked at this before I drew it, because it gives you a step-by-step guide on how to get some shine on your bugs. Got all kinds of beetles, and they look a little shiny. So maybe I need to practice some more. Oh, it even tells you all about making butterflies, dragonflies, and even that spider that I saw, the Microthena spider, was in this book, and I had forgotten all about it. I need to look at my books a little bit more. One more thing about this page was I used the hen and chicks plant as like a little border in the corner of the page and kept all the blue over on this side. Just like I did on the page over here where I used the Indian tobacco, it's kind of like the edge of where I put the blue and left a little bit sticking out in the white margin. So I'd like to thank you for coming along today on my little sweat bee and flower blossom informal survey and verifying the Baader-Mienhof phenomenon. Now I see them everywhere. At the end of the video, I'm showing you some of my process when I made the bee. First I sketched it with pencil, and then I went over it with a black pen. And I use the Micron pens because they're pretty much waterproof. I added some watercolor, and on top of that I did a little bit of colored pencil. So I hope you enjoy. Bye-bye.